our GAP task force work, and all his efforts were greatly appreciated. We'll miss him, but I also would like to extend a warm welcome to Ira Greenberg, someone long associated with transportation, understands the region's issues. We welcome you and welcome your voice.
Thank you. I'll second all of the above. Okay, Alina? Oh, I'm sorry. Joe Smith, Long Island Bus is not with us today, but Norm, why don't you...
Good morning, Chairman Mack and members of the Long Island Committee. I think we approved the minutes, so we don't have to reapprove them from last month. There are no changes to the work plan this month. I'd like to mention some facts about the operations performance report next. Overall, our April service performance was strong. AM and PM weekday pullouts and completed trips were all above 99%, both for the month of April and for the previous rolling 12-month average. The bus mean distance between failure, or the acronym we use, MDBF, was 2130 miles in April, which was up 2.1% from April 08. The 12-month rolling average MDBF is essentially unchanged from a year ago, just over a tenth of percent lower. Beginning this month, a new indicator, the mean distance between service interruption, or what we call MDBSI, has been standardized across the MTA family of bus operations based on the rollout of the new Spear Midas computerized maintenance system at Long Island Bus. We are now capturing additional road call information through the Spear Midas system, which gives us a better measure of service interruptions experienced by our customers. MDBSI shows a decline for the month, but keep in mind that we cannot update the data reported for earlier periods, so the comparison is not quite direct. Also, and I think those of you who have been out in the Nassau area have seen that we're continuing to receive the delivery of our new buses, which is nearly complete. We have 98 of the 100 in service as we speak. With regard to safety performance, trends continue to be good. The 12-month average for bus collisions per million miles traveled worsened slightly by 1.8% from last year, but the 12-month rate for employee on-duty lost time accident improved by 51.7% from the prior year. That's a significant improvement. Bus ridership, unfortunately, is still continuing to trend downward for the month of April and for the previous 12 months in comparison to 2008. Total fixed route ridership decreased by 7.1% for the month of April and was down by 1.7% for the previous month. Initial data for May shows it's getting a little better, and we hope with some of the service changes that we've been making and some of the schedule improvements that you've seen, the new buses out there, and some of the improved reliability that we're going to, over time, reverse that trend. Average weekend ridership for the month of April was down 7.3% and down 3.1% for the 12-month period. Paratransit ridership is increasing. In comparison to 2008, ridership on paratransit increased by 5.9% for the month of April and 7.8% for the 12-month period. Next is the finance report. Fixed route farebox revenue for April 2009 was lower from budget by 6.7%. That's consistent with the ridership decline. Year to date, it is 2.8% or 0.4 million below budget, 400,000 below budget. Paratransit farebox revenue was 6.8% better than budget for the month of April and is 8.1% above budget for the year to date, again reflecting its continued growth. Actual non-reimbursable expenses before non-cash adjustments were lower than budget by $3.8 million or 8.3%. This was primarily because of lower than budgeted fuel prices and favorable adjustments to budgeted claims expenses. We have no action items, competitive procurements, or ratifications this month, but we do have two non-competitive procurements. The first item is a one-year public works contract to a sole source, Cubic Transportation Systems, for parts and services to repair the bus fare boxes. The amount of this contract is not to exceed $24,500. The second item is a miscellaneous service contract to another sole source vendor, Clever Devices Limited, for parts and services to repair digital voice enunciators, transit control heads, and 20-character LED signs for fixed route buses. The amount of this contract is $50,000 for up to 2-year period. I request the committee's approval for these 2 non-competitive procurements.
Move. Okay, are there any questions? Ira, do you have any questions on those?
Well, not a question, more like a comment. I know a lot of this has to be sole source because we saw Cubic, we're stuck with Cubic. I just wonder going forward, as New York Transit looks at new fare collection equipment, this was bought in conjunction with theirs. So I just wonder what can be done, just looking to the future about it being a little more competitive environment as far as replacement parts.
Well, I think as far as a competitive environment, I think the MTA is having a study to look at new fare collection systems and the next generation of technology. In the short term, unfortunately, all of the bus systems are, as you indicated, rely on Cubic. Yeah. It's a sole source issue. But going forward, in the longer term, if there is a new technology and a new vendor, the MTA is pursuing that. And they're pursuing it across the board for all of its operations.
Okay, thank you.
I think we haven't been that lucky yet.
Yeah. Well, I know fare collection equipment's difficult. That's all.
We also have 2 service... I'm sorry.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We also have 2 service adjustments for information. The first item, and it's in your book, is a revision of service on the N27 route. Again, this is consistent with some of the other changes you've seen in prior months, where we're trying to provide a more direct travel path to and from Roosevelt Field and avoiding as much of the traffic on the north side of Roosevelt Field along Old Country Road as we can. We're streamlining the path of the 27. Buses will enter and exit the mall at Old Country Road and Ring Road West, as we did with the other routes, instead of the Eastgate Boulevard. Again, this change is similar to what we've done previously, and these changes are expected to decrease operating costs by about $35,000 annually, and will take effect in September with our schedule adjustment at that time.
Are there any questions for Norm? Norm, you and Joe are doing a wonderful job. I'm getting great reports. Keep up the good work. We're looking very good at the U.S. Open.
Thank you.
And thank you.
I have one other change. There's a second item which we should go through. Just mention it. Is a revision on the N80 route in the Massapequa Park area. Again, similar to the previous one, trying to provide direct service to and from a regional shopping center. In this case, Sunrise Mall. We're streamlining the N80 to travel on Sunrise Highway and parallel the N81 rather than diverting south of Sunrise Highway as far south as Merrick Road. This revision, while we'll discontinue service to this area south of Sunrise Highway, that service is maintained by more frequent N19 service from Merrick Road, so it's a duplication that we don't need, and it's a direct service improvement that'll hopefully get ridership in this relatively low-volume route up as we provide faster, more direct, and more uniform service. This change will save about $40,000 annually and will similarly take effect in September. This concludes my remarks on the agenda. Are there any other questions that I might answer?
Thanks, Norm. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, Norman, thank you.
Thank you.
Just, Norm, while you're still here, I would, just thank you for your compliment on the U.S. Open. I had the opportunity to review the operation yesterday with Joe Smith. I just, again, have to extend my compliments to Long Island Bus. Outstanding looking equipment, great service, very nice coordination with the railroad. We were very, I think Joe and I both very pleased to see the level of cooperation and expertise in that operation.
Thank you all.
Okay. Helena, you're Long Island Railroad. Helena, you're on.
Okay, thank you very much. We have no changes to our committee work plan as well. I will just mention that we, with regard to the U.S. Open, we did learn that Tiger Woods is teeing off on Thursday at 8:06 a.m. And to accommodate extra travelers who want to be there for the tee-off, we have designated our 6:18 arriving in Farmingdale at 7:20, the Tiger Express, and we're out there promoting it for the opportunity for people who want to be there at a key tee-off time. I want to note that, as we all get a sense of, overall transit ridership and our overall region's economy, we've been doing some comparisons in ridership Monday and Tuesday, 2002 to 2009, and we are seeing a slight reduction in the attendance numbers. So we're hoping that the economy doesn't depress the numbers, that people do come out, and of course the weather has been a little bit of a factor. So we'd like to see the weather improve as well. Yesterday, for example, 2002 was 12,500. Yesterday we carried 10,940. So just a little, slight reduction, a little over 1,000. But we're keeping an eye on that ridership because it, of course, starts to indicate, what's happening overall. Today, we are implementing the fare increase. That, of course, we will be watching very carefully with regard to impacts on ridership as well. Commuter rail, both Metro North and Long Island Railroad, implement fare increase today. Transit will be June 28th. We are on the June 17th schedule, which allows us to go forward with the July 1 on the monthlies. So again, we'll be tracking that very carefully. So with that, I'm going to turn to the financial report, and Mark Young does have some, ridership and financial revenue perspective.
Good morning. Before I go into the ridership numbers, I just did want to point out and highlight for the committee and also just publicly thank the staff on the finance, budget, and management side. There's been a lot going on, as you know, in the last few months, and it's taken a lot of work for staff to put these things together. I'd say the July plan submission, which you'll see next cycle, certainly has required a lot of work for staff, adjusting to various changes. And they did that all while implementing a new budget system for the Long Island Railroad, which is financial management system. The product is a Hyperion product. It will be interfaced with PeopleSoft when that comes into play. It will allow the Long Island Railroad to do a much better job of developing its budget and monitoring the budget throughout the year. So many changes took place in the July plan while we were implementing Hyperion. I think we kind of feel that if we could get through that, we can handle just about anything going forward. So we're very pleased. Of course, as Cleta mentioned, the fare increases today. Many staff, IT, public affairs, passenger services, the controller's office, and the budget office all played a role in making sure that the vending machines are prepared for the new fares, and certainly that everybody's prepared for that. That was a lot of work, and we continue to spend many hours working with the Business Service Center to help identify the best way to implement BSC. So I just wanted to thank the staff. They've done a lot of really excellent work so far. On page 21, moving to the ridership portion, page 21, as usual, includes the report for April ridership, but I'll provide you with more up-to-date May figures, which are the preliminary figures. May, again, as you might imagine, was not a strong month for the Long Island Railroad in terms of ridership. For the month of May, total ridership was down 4.8%. When you adjust for the one less workday than there was in 2008. Commutation was down 6.3%, which is the largest drop in monthly sales we've seen all year, but it's roughly consistent with what we saw in April. So the commutation drop has been the same for the last 2 months. Non-commutation is down, but not down quite as much. It's down 2.8% in the month of May. We did see an increase in the 10-trip area, so perhaps people are rethinking how they on their ticket purchasing patterns with the economy and the pending fare increase. Year to date, total ridership is down 4.3%. Again, commutation is down 4.9%, while non-com is down 3.3%. That's a consistent pattern. We're in the midst, as I mentioned, of completing the July plan, which will reflect a more conservative estimate on ridership going forward for the year. We'll be forecasting 83 million riders for the year, which is 4.5% lower than 2008. And if you recall, we had already factored in a 1% reduction when we put the budget together at the beginning, so we're taking that down further just to be more conservative and to be confident in our revenue estimates. And the last item I'll mention is, since you're aware, we restored the Belmont service. Since over the 18-day period since we restored that service, 11,206 tickets were sold for the Belmont, including 9,700 on Stakes Day. Any questions on ridership? Okay, I'll turn it to Jerry Ring, who can give a brief overview of the budget situation.
Good morning. The Railroad's financial report for April is on page 5 of the Railroad section of the book. Total revenue was unfavorable to budget by 8% for the month of April and 10% year-to-date. Farebox revenue is the largest component of total revenue, and for the month of April, the farebox revenue totaled almost $40 million, but this was unfavorable to budget by 1%. Year-to-date, farebox revenue is running under the budget by about 2%. The other significant revenue category is capital and other reimbursable revenue. This also continues to remain under budget. Year-to-date, unfavorable by $21 million, or 28%. The primary reason for this is the timing and purchasing of ESET access material, which is about $14 million. As I've mentioned in the past, we will be making an adjustment in the mid-year forecast to revise this projection for the rest of the year. Shifting to expenses, before factoring in depreciation and other non-cash items, expenses were favorable to budget in April by 6% and year-to-date by 8%. Labor remains very close to budget. For the month of April, we posted a favorable variance of $2 million, or 2%. Non-labor also remains favorable to budget. In April, non-labor was $7 million, or 6% favorable to budget. Again, reimbursable ESET access material makes up a large part of this favorable variance. There are no major budget issues to report at this time. The resulting farebox ratio for April is 42%, which is 1.3 percentage points above budget. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to turn now to Ray Kenny, Senior VP of Ops.
Good morning. The operating report starts on page number 29 of the Long Island Railroad section of the book. And the overall on-time performance for the month of May 2009 was 96.64%. And this is a new record for the month of May, and the second best, a record of second best for any month on record. May's AM peak OTP was 98.18%, and this is also a new record for May. May's PM off-peak was 94.91%, and May's off-peak OTP was 96.65%, also a new record for May. The May year-to-date overall on-time performance is 95.80, a new record, and the May the May AM OTP is 95.78%. That's a new record. That's the year-to-date. And the May year-to-date OTP off-peak is 96.18, also a new record. There were 8 100% rush hours in May, 7 in the morning, 1 in the p.m. So far this year, we've had 36 100% rush hours, which is one short of the record set in 1993. AM peak car availability was met every day of the month, and the M7 MBDF exceeded the increased goal of 300,000 miles, and the MBDF goal was also exceeded for M3s, C3s, and the total fleet. The most significant OTP event of the month was a trespasser strike during the evening rush hour on May 1st in New Hyde Park. That resulted in a total of 63 late trains. We were able to minimize the effect on the customers through the assistance of the MTA Police Department. The MTA Police also assisted us during the month of May in planning the Belmont Stakes, which occurred in June, of course, and the present U.S. Open. That completes the operating report for May, and I'm available for any questions.
Yes, I have a comment, maybe a question too, about the diesel fleet,
Yes.
especially the locomotives.
Yes.
We at the Long Island Community Council happened to notice that there was a decline in the goal from 2008. The goal for the diesel fleet MDBF went down to 18,000, and we're not even meeting that. And some of my Suffolk fellow riders have mentioned that they've noticed a decline in what they perceived decline in on-time performance. I mean, they're late a lot, and I think that directly relates to this. I'm just wondering, I know a couple of years ago, I think there was a whole big effort to try and increase the reliability of both the dual modes and the regular diesels. I just wonder if what's the long-range effort going to be?
Well, we're continuing the effort that did start, when it was about a year and a half. We're continuing that effort. We will continue it. It is a challenge, but everything is still in place to maximize the performance.
Well, I just want to express concern. Maybe we should look at this in going next few months. We're talking about going to the capital program and going to Albany and asking for money. And there was a promise of one-seat ride for years, and a couple of other things were said. And I think that's not being met. And the rest of the railroad's doing great, really, exceptionally well, because the M7s and because people are working, the employees are working hard, and the trains are on time. That's the part I ride, and
Right.
there's almost never a delay, as far as that's what I encounter. But I'm hearing something different from people in Suffolk, and I think we have to either show a program of how we're going to get these locomotives up to snuff, or some program maybe to overhaul them or something else. I would hope there'd be some long-range effort to make sure they perform up to. And the other question I have is, why was it decreased from 30,000 to 18,000 for this year?
Well, I think we looked at a very practical perspective of what was achievable. And we have used some outside consultants to help us. We've put a number of measures in place to really hone in on eliminating an approach that had been used over a number of years with the diesel fleet. No defect found. We are actually holding the equipment in until we do a thorough enough examination to find the defect. So when we described the approach to the committee a year ago, we said, what's going to happen is you're going to see the MDBF go down, because instead of no defect found, we're going to find that defect, we're going to hold it, and we're going to charge it against the statistics. So we reasonably felt that we had to lower the goal, because our real goal was, let's find it, fix it, and see what we can do, to improve overall performance. I will say to you that we are very conscious of how dependent we are on that diesel fleet for the ridership in exclusive diesel territory. So we are working hard to maintain the level of performance we're getting, but we do recognize there's some deficiencies. The fleet is a very difficult fleet.
Yeah. Is there a long-range plan to bring it up, or we're just...
We're confident in where we're attaining, better performance with the coaches. And of course, I always point out the coaches, get the highest rating in customer satisfaction. Everybody loves those coaches. They are the most comfortable. And if anything, I sometimes get the complaint they're a little too cool in the summer.
Yeah, I've heard that, but that's...
Right, but it's the locomotive equipment that we've got to focus on, and we are putting those measures in place. But it's going to be a constant, vigilance on our part.
I mean, do we see a point where we're going to have to do a major overhaul of these locomotives in order to get them up to standard? I just...
we'd be happy to, bring the, Long Island Commuter Council through the issues. One of the problems is that they're really not as ripe for an overhaul because of some of the maintenance that hasn't taken place. We're really trying to get the fleet into a more standardized perspective, and then really make a judgment of what we can do. Overhaul would be a very expensive, option.
But it's been some time. I just wonder what's the point at which you're going to be able to tell the council and the board here that we think we can raise the MDBF of these locomotives.
I have to be really very honest and realistic. Our goal is to preserve the MDBF. I am not confident that we will get to a point where we could substantially raise it. We want to make sure that we prevent further deterioration, because the fleet is aging, there are parts issues. We've been reestablishing a relationship with some of the important manufacturer of the components. So, realistically, when you go after this no defect found approach, it means you're going to find it, fix it, but you're always going to have an impact on your MDBF.
Yeah, I just, if there's certain components or something that's wrong, can they be addressed? But I remember that the conclusion was that no, there was no one major problem,
Right.
which was disturbing. But
And it really goes to, some of the overall design issues. A lot packed into, a certain amount of space.
heat. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. We're going to turn to Kathleen Finneran on the MTA Police Report.
Good morning. The crime report is located on page 48 of the Long Island Railroad book, and you can see that there is a slight increase in the larcenies. We're up 40 so far this year as compared to 36 last year. The district commanders are monitoring the larceny reports to identify any patterns, and as of this date, we have not identified any patterns, and will continue to do so. And as Ray had mentioned, during the month of May, we work closely with transportation on the planning for the Belmont Stakes and for the U.S. Open, and continue to plan for the Met Games at Citi Field. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, Kathleen. And again, just my compliments on all the interagency cooperation. Kathleen really leads the effort with the other law enforcement that's involved as well. Substantial involvement with New York State Police, for example, at the U.S. Open, and it's just been terrific.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to turn to Kevin Tomlinson on Capital Program Report.
Thank you. Good morning. The capital program highlights are on Section 5 on page 51 of your book, and it includes one milestone for the month of May, the design completion for the rehabilitation of the Shinnecock Canal, Montauk Highway, and North Highway bridges. The standard project updates for the Central Islip Police Facility, Atlantic Avenue Viaduct, East Side Access, Atlantic Terminal, and the Mainline Corridor Improvements Project are found on the following page. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Right time. Senator Schumer made a major point this week about the Wi-Fi issue on the railroad, and I know that's something we've discussed here at length. I was just wondering if you wanted to take a moment to bring us up to date on that. I saw the interest in the senator in using stimulus funds to pay for it, and I'm sure the federal government would like to write us a check. We'd be more than happy to take it. I'm not sure that's the best thing we could do with the money, but be that as it may, if there's a category that we don't otherwise lose other things for, I'm sure we'd be able to take the money for that purpose. But I was wondering if you might want to just bring us up to date on where that issue is at the moment.
I'd be delighted to. We have worked actually with the MTA Real Estate Department to develop a request for expressions of interest because there has been some interest in the telecommunications field to test their technology in a pilot program. So we are inviting, suppliers in the field to come forward, give us what they think would work as a model program, and we look forward to going forward with that process. I'll have to get back to you on when their proposals are due, but we've invited people to propose for Long Island Railroad and Metro North, or one or the other. You can do a pilot on either. You can do a pilot on both. So we're very excited about it, and it was, always good to, get the attention of the senator on our system. Okay, with that, we do have one information item, and it's on our July track work program. It's on page 55 in the book, and it identifies crossing work that will be done from Farmingdale at a grade crossing. We'll be doing crossing work for 2 weekends in July. We do offer substitute bus service during those crossing finishings and switch surfacing. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. This is part of our normal, track work program. We use the summer to get as much done as we can. And with that, I can turn to procurements. You'll see those on page 56. There are 2 procurements in this month's package totaling $5 million. One item is in the non-competitive section, and that's for $103,277. And there's one item in the competitive section. With regard to the non-competitive, it is a sole source for double head screw spikes that we use in our track program, and they support our state of good repair. And we'd ask for a vote on that non-competitive procurement.
Second. Are there any questions? Mitch, anything? No. Okay. No? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okey-doke.
And then, yep, we're turning to competitive section. There's a request for approval to award a contract not to exceed the amount of $4.8 million to EMC Corporation, and this is, through the use of the New York State Office of General Services contract. We are the lead agency doing a joint procurement for Metro North, ourselves, Bridges and Tunnel, and this award is for maintenance, support, expansion, and upgrade of our storage area networks for a 5-year period. So we ask for a vote on that as well.
So moved.
There are no...
Are there any questions? No one has any questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
And there are no ratifications this month, but I would like to bring to the committee's attention that you had previously approved a consulting contract with Don Nelson. We are moving forward with the submission to Finance. That'll go to the Finance Committee on Monday. There had been some questions on the scope that we were able to address, but basically it stays intact. And with that,
Are we all okay on that? Okay.
I believe that completes our agenda, unless there are any questions.
No questions, and everyone enjoy the weekend and get out and look
Go
at
see
the
ball.
CD Open. That's it.
Right,
You're right. Oh, hopefully not. Maybe. Yeah, I know. Maybe the weatherman. In the meantime, move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.
We just remind you, leave those cell phones at home.
Yeah.